Hey guys, I'm here today to share a video with you guys that I'm super excited about. It's a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I think is such a good experience that I hope everyone gives a chance if they have it in their heart and it's on their heart that they want to do it. Today I want to share with you guys my experience of teaching abroad in Thailand. I actually posted a little question box on Instagram yesterday and people got to ask questions, so I'm going to do a little Q&A style at the end. But to start with, I thought I would just kind of talk about how I got started and what it was like. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them down below and I'd be happy to answer them. So let's get started. So when people hear that I taught abroad, their first question is always, how did you get started? Why did you pick Thailand? Those kind of questions like, why did I choose to do that in the first place? And the answer is really kind of simple. I wanted to live abroad, I wanted to travel, but I had no money because I had just graduated and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. So I graduated college in June of 2013. Yeah, 2013. And I graduated with my degree in English and I loved writing, I loved reading, and I kind of felt like a lot of other people that age where they just kind of got pushed into figuring it out, but they never really figured it out. We have to pick a major, we have to do something, but then we graduate and we don't know what to do. So if you're in that boat, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna figure it out, don't worry. It's actually pretty funny that I ended up being a teacher because I majored in English, and in my English program, there was this, I forget what it was called, but some kind of program where you could take a couple extra classes that weren't on your normal graduation path, and you would be certified to teach whatever you got your degree in. So I would have been certified to teach English up to I think 8th or 9th grade, and I wouldn't have had to take any of the CSET tests for California. So I was like, no, I'm not gonna be a teacher. I don't want to take those classes. I know I'm not gonna be a teacher. And the professor was like, are you sure? Even if you're kind of maybe, just take it just in case so you don't have to take those tests because they're expensive and they're hard. And I was like, no, I'm good. A couple years later, I was like, dang it, I should have taken those tests, those classes. But yeah, so I graduated and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to travel and I knew that I liked kids. And so in between trying to figure out what I was going to do, I was like, I'll just substitute teach. So I got a job substitute teaching in the district that I actually grew up in and that I graduated from, which is weird. I substituted for a lot of my elementary teachers, which is really cool. But anyways, as I was subbing, it was coming to the summertime. And I wasn't going to be making money as a sub over the summer, obviously, and so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I still have this in the back of my head that I wanted to travel, but I didn't have much money saved up because, as you know, if you've subbed, you really don't make that much as a substitute. I was kind of in this dilemma, this isn't what I want to be doing, and I feel like now is the time before I have kids, and I'm mortgaged, and I'm married, and can't just pick up and leave, that this is my time to go travel and do stuff. But I also didn't have any way to pay for that as a broke, just recent grad. So I started Googling when I was substituting how to make money abroad. And the first thing that popped up was hundreds of blog posts and companies and TEFL certifications for teaching abroad. And I was like, that could be kind of interesting. I'm already substitute teaching. Let me look into it more. You can get certified through what's called a TEFL certification, TEFL, and it stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language, and it's basically for people who are moving to another country but don't have any teaching experience. And I was considering doing that, but they're expensive. I think it's between $1,000 and $1,500 based on which program you go through. And basically it's a month of living. You don't have your airfare covered. Some of them pay for your living expenses, some of them don't. But you are basically paying to be initiated into that country. So you get culture classes, language classes, you get to mingle with other people who are doing the same thing as you, and it's kind of a way to ease into the process. This is the one thing that I wish I would have done. I think that would have probably made my experience a lot easier. I did not do that. I instead went what I thought was going to be the easier route. It was definitely the cheaper route, but it was hard. I found a company on Craigslist called Media Kids that I would recommend to anyone. They were extremely helpful through the entire process. They made everything really easy. But when I showed up, I was immediately teaching, and I had only substitute taught before, so it was a little bit hard for me to adjust to teaching when I had lesson plans written for me, to just figuring out how to teach them on my own, especially when you have a class of 50 students that are all English language learners. It was really hard. So if I could go back and do it again, I would go through one of the TEFL certifications. The cool thing about that too is that they set you up in a really beautiful place. So there was some that I looked up where they're going to put you in like Phuket or Krabi, which are both beach places, and would have been super beautiful and would have been really fun, and it would have been really nice to meet other people because I was very isolated where I was at. I was in a very small place called Mompong. I think that just would have helped a lot because when I got there, the culture shock was so real. Not having anyone else to kind of go through that experience with was really hard, and to just go from one day being a substitute teacher, being 22, never having been abroad before, to all of a sudden being thrust into this new culture was extremely difficult. I was very homesick. I was really scared. It was really hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Actually, I found my journal from when I was living there, and it's so sad. Like, I read it and started tearing up because I just want to give myself a little hug and say, like, it's gonna be okay, you're gonna make it through, it's gonna be a great experience. But I was just so culture shocked, and I was so scared, and I was so lonely that it made the experience really hard. So if I could do it again, I would definitely do one of the certification classes. If you don't feel like you need that, but you are not a teacher, you can also go on like Groupon, I think has them, I saw it before, but you can just Google TEFL certifications online, and I think it's about $200 versus the $1,000 to $1,500. So that might be helpful for you just to get acclimated to how to teach students who are learning the language, because you have to remember, depending on where you're teaching and depending what kind of group you're getting, they could have 0 English language proficiency, or they could have a really high English language proficiency, and either way, you're gonna have to have strategies in your bag for how to help them learn the language. And you're probably gonna have very little resources. So your brain is gonna be your biggest resource, and Google and Pinterest will be your friend as well. This is gonna sound crazy, but I searched on Craigslist for companies for teaching abroad, and I actually found the company that I ended up going with, which is called Media Kids. And if you are considering teaching abroad and you come across this company, they were so helpful. Every single person that I interacted with from Media Kids helped me every step along the way, whether it was with actually getting my documents, taking me to the school, being my advisors while I was there, helping me deal with homesickness, all that kind of stuff. So highly recommend Media Kids. I think their company is in other countries too, not just Thailand. So if you wanted to teach somewhere else, you could definitely look into that. The process was super quick. I found the company and applied to them on May 8th, and then I heard back from them, I think pretty much right away, the next day, if not 2 days after that. It was really quick. And then we set up a Skype interview. So I got to Skype interview with my advisor, who was going to be the person that I was meeting once I got there. And that Skype interview happened on May 14th. So less than a week later, I was having an interview. And then I actually left for Thailand on June 25th. So it was less than a month and a half from the day that I actually applied to even work in Thailand to the day that I was leaving on my flight. So it's really easy and quick. There's just a couple of things that you need, and they help you with everything every step of the way. You need a work permit, and you need a non-immigrant B visa. The work permit Media Kids paid for. I think I had to just send them some documents or some information about myself, and then they took care of everything for me. The non-immigrant B visa I had to get in my home country, so I had to go down to LA one day. I made an appointment at the Thai embassy, and then it was really quick. I think it took like 45 minutes from the time that I got there to leaving. So super simple. I don't remember how much it cost, but it was pretty inexpensive because I didn't have much money at the time. So I think it was, let me look it up. So I just looked it up. It says that it costs about 2,000 baht, which is about $63 US. So pretty inexpensive. You're gonna have to spend a day going down to the Thai embassy or whatever country you're trying to teach in and getting that taken care of, but it was fairly easy to do. Alright, let's talk salary. So this is going to sound very low, but keep in mind that the cost of living in Thailand is so low that it's very livable. I was able to actually save money while I was living there and travel at the same time. So keep that in mind. Pretty standard salary for teaching English pretty much anywhere in Thailand is 30,000 baht a month, which is about $1,000. And then you can get extra money if you have extra education or experience. So for example, I have a bachelor's degree in English, so they counted that as enough for 1,000 extra baht a month, which is like $30-something. And then if you have any kind of like teaching credential or a master's in education, for every extra step of education that you have that's related to this job, you'll get 1,000 baht. And then also they counted, at least the program that I went through, they gave 1,000 baht extra a month for every year that you had experience teaching. So they gave me 1,000 baht for having 1 year teaching experience from substituting. So I don't know if they would give 1,000 per year. Like, say I was going to go do it now. I have 4 years teaching experience. No, I don't. I have 3 years teaching experience. So I don't know if they would give me like 3,000 baht extra a month. I don't know if it's just 1,000 per month if you have any experience. I'm not really sure how that works. And then Media Kids also gave me a 3,000 baht a month allowance for housing, which was about half of the cost of my apartment. So it cost me about $200 a month to rent out the apartment that I have. Is very minimal and just had a bed, a refrigerator, and then a bathroom. One question that I got online about the salary was, how do you actually access the money? So Media Kids had given me a debit card, and that is where the salary was transferred to, and it was a Thai debit card, so I could go to any Thai bank and pull out my salary. And then before I left, I just pulled out all the cash and then converted it at the airport to dollars. So yeah, they made it really easy. I could access my money at any time. And yeah, I didn't have to do anything for that either. They set it all up for me. So that was really nice. Okay, so I had a really interesting experience from actually getting to Thailand. So it was my first time, as I said, ever going abroad. And the flight from LA to China, where I had to have a layover at, was I think 16 hours. And then I had a 7-hour layover and then a 7-hour flight to Bangkok. And I got to Bangkok at, I think like 12:30. It was around midnight. And I ended up meeting 2 guys from LA on the flight, and they were going to a hostel. And so instead of sleeping in the airport, we went together in a taxi to the hostel. And then the woman that was working at the front of the hostel, like the receptionist, said that the company's office that I was going to was really far, and so she would be willing to take me there because it would be a really expensive taxi ride. And I'm naive, so I said, okay, let's go, stranger. Luckily, everyone in Thailand is super nice, and I didn't meet anyone who was trying to do any harm to me, so it ended up okay. I got to the office at about 8 in the morning, and then I had to wait there, fill out my paperwork, and wait for a bus at, I think, like 10 in the morning. So I had to wait a couple hours. I took a nap, and then I got on a bus and had an 11-hour bus ride up to Lampang, which is about an hour and a half outside of Chiang Mai, which is a big city in the north. And it was the longest couple days of my life. I remember not sleeping at all. I was very anxious, very worried about how everything was going to work out. I was really scared. I was homesick already. I hadn't eaten that whole time. I remember on the flight from China to Thailand, they had like a traditional Chinese meal that they passed out. And I don't know if it was just like the mix of emotions or like my stomach not being used to what I ate, but I actually threw up 3 times on the plane. And yeah, it was really bad. But it was okay. I got there. And then when I got up to Lampang, there was someone waiting there for me. It was actually the owners of my apartment, and they drove me over to the apartment. They showed me my room, and it was really cute. They had 2 daughters that were living there, and they were so excited that an American was going to be living there because the area that I was in was pretty rural, it's such a hard word to say. And they didn't have a lot of Americans living there. And so someone had told me that I was the first white American woman to actually live there. So they were pretty excited to see me, and they brought me like these cookies and milk and chips and just slid them under my door with a note. It was so cute. I could hear their giggling, and it was really cool. So it was a nice little welcome. Media Kids actually found the apartment for me. So they had sent me pictures before I had gotten there and given me some options of, you know, do you want to live here? Do you want to live here? This one's closer to the school. This one has other Americans living there. This one costs this much money. And then I got to kind of pick based on what was most important to me. So that was really awesome. They set up everything for me. I didn't have to find it myself. I didn't have to contact anyone. They had it just waiting for me set up when I got there. $1,000 a month, it does not sound like it's enough to live on, but I promise you it's going to be enough and then some, because the cost of living is so cheap. It's so low. So just kind of to give you an idea of what things cost there, most of the time the things that you're going to be eating are out of Thai food stalls, which the best way to think about it is like if you're walking down a street, there are all these like little kind of like half garage looking stalls next to each other, and they're all different little restaurants, and you can get a full meal, like a drink, a food, like a drink, a plate, and a side for less than $3. So it's very inexpensive to eat there. Even to eat at like a nice sit down restaurant, your meal, again, a drink, a meal, and then a side if you wanted something, would be under $9. So it's very easy to get around and get by on the salary that you do have. The apartment that I lived in did not have any kind of kitchen, nothing. I had a little mini fridge, but that basically only fit like some water and fruit. So you're probably going to be eating out a lot. So the actual teaching, the part that probably a lot of you are really curious about, it was so different than what I experienced in the United States, because you're kind of like a specials teacher is the way to look at it. So basically you're going to teach from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. You have to be on the grounds during those hours, and your hours are going to vary during the day depending on which day it is. At my school, I had 25 classes a week. Each class was an hour, and each class had 50 students, and I only saw them each once a week. And they were all in different buildings too. So I didn't have like my own classroom. I would just go to different classrooms that weren't being used at that time. Some of the classrooms had chalkboard and just windows that were open. There was no AC, and it was extremely hot in there. And then some classrooms had a whiteboard and AC, but none of the classrooms that I were in had any kind of technology, no projector, no computer, nothing like that. So everything that we were doing was just interacting with the students. The students were not on any kind of technology. It was all teacher-led, and they were all varying levels, but every group was grouped with students who were at the same level as them. I didn't have to differentiate within a class. I had to differentiate for the specific classes because they were all different from each other, but for the same class, I was not differentiating lesson plans for that one group. The one really cool thing about this that I'm very glad I had this experience is that I can take this experience with me into my elementary classroom now, because we all have English language learners in our classroom, and I was teaching only English language learners, and I learned so many little tricks and tips of how to teach EL students, how to use games, how to use songs, how to engage students who don't speak the same language as you, and how to get them to understand what you're talking about. That was crucial for my teaching now. Something that I also want to make sure that I mention is that Thai culture is very respectful. So every morning the teachers were expected to go to the gate and greet the students, and you say hello by saying Sawadee-ka. And the teachers would say that to the students, and every student would say it back to the teacher and then would bow to the teachers. Every time my students saw me in the hallway, they would bow. Every time we started a class, they would bow. Every time we ended a class, they would bow. Like, it was so important in that culture to be respectful, and that was something that teachers in the United States know that we don't always experience with our students or our parents or admin or whoever, that respect and appreciation for us. So that was something that was so different and so nice that I want to make sure I mention, because it was just a cool part. So the program that I was teaching in is the ECD program, where you're focusing on communication and pronunciation. And this was really difficult for me at first, because when I got to my school, they did not have any curriculum as far as what had already been taught, what I was supposed to teach. Basically what they had were topics, and then you had to take their standards that the company provided, Media Kids, and try to fit in, how am I going to work out a lesson for this level of students. I was teaching high school, so I had 8th, 9th, and 10th graders, and they were all at varying levels. I don't want to share too much with you guys about what my lesson plans looked like, because I had never taught before, and One of the big downfalls that I had with Media Kids was that they weren't very organized in their actual instruction and what they expected. And I don't know if that was necessarily their fault or the fact that they were having teachers kind of come in and out as they pleased. You know, in this kind of job, people are traveling and they leave when they want to leave and they come when they want to come. And so if they leave without leaving any kind of lesson plans as far as what they had done before they had gotten there, the next person coming in is kind of lost. And that's what happened to me. The person that left before me had only submitted one lesson plan the entire time that he was there. And when I came, I had no idea what was already taught to my students and what wasn't, and the Thai teachers there didn't know either. So that was pretty frustrating and something that I struggled with when I first got there, because I wanted to do a good job. I wanted these students to have a good experience. I wanted them to learn, but I didn't really know where to go. And so that was really hard. I spent a lot of time on Pinterest because that's the only website that I knew at the time to look for any kind of teaching resources, and found different games. We sang a lot of songs. I had gone down to Little Market and gotten little trinkets like little beach balls and used that to try to engage students. But I feel like had I done a TEFL program again, I feel like that would have given me a lot of strategies and ideas for things that I could have taken into the classroom, and it would have made a more meaningful experience for the students and a lot less frustrating of an experience for me. As far as the actual lesson plans go, they give me topics. So Media Kids had given me a list of topics that I could cover, from things like going to the store, playing at the park, clothing, family, things like that, just kind of very general topics. And then they also gave me a list of standards that are very similar to Common Core standards. And you basically just had to pick which standards you were going to cover for a certain topic, and you could cover that topic for as long as you wanted if you were going to be covering different standards, or you could switch between topics per week. So what I did is I picked a topic per week, and then I would pick which standards I thought would go best with that topic. Again, I didn't have very much teaching experience at this time. I didn't have a credential. I had only substitute taught for a year, so I had no actual experience writing lesson plans. That was something that I really struggled with, and another reason why I would highly, highly encourage you, if you have never taught before, to do a TEFL certification. If I had done that, I would have had strategies and tools and ideas and games and all this kind of stuff that I could have brought into the classroom with me, but you live and you learn. That's okay. I can pass that information on to you guys. It's totally up to you, but I think that if you have no experience teaching, definitely do a certification, because you might be at a school where you're just going to kind of be thrown into the water with no real curriculum and you gotta sink or swim. I think I kind of drowned a little bit, but that's okay. I did my best. So then I would write my lesson plans, and every Thursday our lesson plans were due for the following week. So you had a little bit of time to type it up for the next week ahead. And if you had any questions, you always had an advisor that you could reach out to. And there were also other teachers at my school. Media Kids had a very strict dress code, because in different parts of Thailand there's different traditions and expectations for teachers. Some are more laid back, some are more strict. So to just kind of make it easier for all teachers and to be represented positively, you had to wear a white button-down shirt as a girl, and then a dark knee-length skirt, and then black flats. So I just had, I think I got the shirt at like Kohl's or something, and I got a couple of them, and then I got a pencil skirt from Express, and then just flats from Target. And that worked. It was pretty comfortable. It's very, very hot there, so make sure that you're bringing clothes that are breathable, because that skirt that I got was not breathable and it was difficult. So I did not get to choose my grade level. I was actually given a couple different options as far as where I wanted to live. Originally I told them that I wanted to live by the beach. Duh, that would be the dream, but there are actually very few positions available because it is such a hot commodity. So if you are going to be wanting a specific place, I would recommend definitely applying sooner rather than later, because with the time frame that I was in, it was not going to happen getting a job in my dream place. And I was put in a town called Lampang, which is up north, up by Chiang Mai, and I actually am really glad that I went there, because it was very beautiful and I feel like I got a lot more authentic of an experience. And yeah, I wouldn't trade that. I was given two different options. I was given an option of going to Payao or going to Lampang, which are pretty close to each other. And one thing that I regret not doing is kind of advocating for myself a little bit more. I I think because I was young, because I didn't have a lot of experience, I was willing to just take whatever. And so in Payao, they were going to be putting me in a school that had a bunch of other English teachers where I would have had a bigger support system, and I think it would have been a little bit more fun. But then they needed someone to go to Lampang. The Payao position was with elementary students. The Lampang position was with high school students. And I am not cut out for high school at all. But I think because I was inexperienced, because I just wanted a job somewhere and I was thankful to be getting anything, and I didn't want to be a burden, I let them put me where they needed me, and they chose Lampang because they needed someone there. And I think it was a bit more isolating than I could handle. So if your company gives you an option, I would definitely just take some time to think about where do you want to be, kind of what do you want this experience to be for you, what are you looking for, research what those different cities have in them, what they're like, ask questions like who else is going to be there, just things that are important to you that you want to have in your experience, because I didn't do that, and because of that I think I felt very, very isolated and homesick. And that made for a challenging experience that definitely helped me grow as a person, but that made it a little bit less fun. One thing that I would 100% hands down, no matter where you live in Thailand, rent a motorbike. So the company that I went through set me up with this person who rented out motorbikes. So someone came and picked me up. We drove to their house and they had like 10 motorbikes. I got to pick which one I wanted. And when I say motorbike, I mean like pretty much an electric scooter that has a seat. Like it was nothing crazy. I don't actually remember getting any kind of like insurance or anything for it, which that was a risky business move for the person who was renting me the bike because I'm a bad driver. I almost crashed like 10 times, especially because obviously in Asia they drive on the opposite side of the road from the United States, and so turning right I was always just like ready to go, and I almost crashed a bunch of times. I actually did crash on the motorbike a couple times, but not like into anything, I just fell off. Rent a motorbike, it's super fun. I don't think I would have explored as much had I not had that, because there is such a large communication barrier. If I were going to be teaching in like a Latin American country or somewhere where they speak Spanish, I think I could have kind of fudged my way through the Spanish that I do know and made it work. But I think because Thai is such a different language than English, it was really hard for me to communicate with people, even though I did try, and I would definitely recommend trying. Definitely learn how to say hello, goodbye, thank you, how are you doing, things like that. But not enough to, you know, communicate with a taxi driver on where I want to go. And so I don't think I would have explored as many places, and I would have missed out on that opportunity. But since I did have a motorbike, and the other 3 teachers that were at my school did too, we are kind of like this little motorbike gang, and after school we would like go get dinner together. And then since we were in a rural area, dang that word again, really short outside of our city limits was like this straight up jungle. And we would go driving through the jungle all the time, and there's these winding roads, and we'd drive up to this place where there was these huge steps, like at least 500 steps, like so many steps. And at the top of it was a temple, and there were actual real monks like that would go up and walk in the temple, and we would see them sometimes, and it was just so cool. It was such a good experience. And we also would drive, there was like an hour away, there was this huge forest that we would go to that had all these waterfalls and these cool hikes, and so we could drive our motorbike, we'd leave early in the morning, and we'd drive to the forest, and we'd park it, pay, we'd go hiking, and it was so cool. There's just so much beauty there, and I really wish that I could have stayed longer. So that was my experience. I do have some questions that were asked on Instagram that I want to answer for you guys. Okay, so someone asked, how do you choose which company to go through? So I didn't do a whole lot of research, to be honest. I looked at a couple different companies on Craigslist, and then I googled them to see their reviews, and Media Kids had a lot of positive reviews, a lot of testimonies. Some of like the Pinterest blog people that I read that had done it went through them, and they had positive experiences, so that made me feel a lot more comfortable to go through them. But there's a lot of different options. Just do your research, make sure you feel comfortable, because remember, you are going to another country and you could get scammed very easily. So you want to make sure that you're going through a company that's reputable and that you feel confident trusting. Okay, the next one someone asked is, did you go with anyone you know? I was actually supposed to go with one of the guys that I was really good friends with all growing up. We had been planning it this whole time, and a couple weeks before we were supposed to go, he backed out. And I was left there kind of thinking like, oh my gosh, like, am I really gonna go by myself? And there was a time too where I backed out and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna go. If he's not gonna go, I'm not gonna go. And then I just decided, yeah, you're gonna go. You want this experience, you're gonna regret it if you don't, and you have nothing to lose, so go. And so I went completely alone, and that was something that made the experience really scary. And I think obviously it didn't help, like, the homesick feeling and the isolated feeling, but I think it made for a more enriching experience because I had to learn for myself that I can do things on my own, that you know, I was 22 years old, so I was kind of in this like coming of age period where I was having to come into my own independence anyways. And I think that that would have made it more of like a crutch. Like, had I had someone there with me, I wouldn't have stepped out of my comfort zone as much. I would have felt a lot more comfortable because I had someone, like this partner in crime with me, but I don't think I would have gotten as much out of the experience. Or I don't know if I wouldn't have gotten as much, but I would have had a different experience. And I love the experience that I got, so I'm thankful that I did it on my own. I was very proud of myself. I still am very proud of myself, and it's one of my absolute favorite memories of my life. So if you don't have anyone to go with, also don't let that stop you, because you can do it. It will be scary, but it will be amazing, I promise. Someone else asked, do you know of any programs where you can teach for just a month or two? I don't, but I know people that have gone for 6 weeks. If you follow Miss Crafty Math Teacher on Instagram, her name's Kathleen. She's a math teacher, a high school math teacher, and she went and taught in Thailand last summer, and I think she only went for like 6 weeks. So I'm not sure like what company she went through, but I know for sure that you can do that, and I know that she's answered a lot of questions about it on Instagram and probably would help you out if you message her. She's really sweet. Her name's Kathleen, is Crafty Math Teacher. I would definitely reach out to her if you had questions about a shorter program. Okay, the next question says, I'm a new teacher. Can I teach abroad as a newbie? Absolutely, absolutely. I had zero teaching experience when I went, and honestly, a lot of places I know all over Asia, not just in Thailand, are really desperate for English-speaking teachers. So they are going to hire people who are interested in coming, and especially if you get your TEFL certification or if you have a credential, I think you would absolutely be good to go. Definitely give it a try. Next question says, is there any way to choose an age level or grade level? Also, do you get vacations home? So I did not get to choose, but there was such a small window between when I applied and when I left that it was kind of just what was available at that time. But there's so many different companies that you can go through, so I would maybe suggest applying to a couple different ones, let them know what your preference is as far as age, and then go from there. I will say, even though I was teaching high school, I didn't feel like I was teaching high school because their proficiency level with English was very low. So it was kind of like I was teaching elementary school with, as far as like the topics I was teaching about, the communication ability. We were using a lot of songs and games, so it very much felt like I was teaching elementary school. So even if you get placed in a position that is not necessarily a grade level that you feel comfortable teaching or confident, remember the content level is going to be very, very simple. So don't let that scare you away from accepting a position in a less than desirable age for you. Okay, then the second part of that question says, also, do you get vacations home? So I was only there for 4 months, so I didn't have any vacations like a summer vacation or a break. There was only one time that we had a 4-day weekend for the Queen's birthday, and I used that to go to an island, so I didn't go home at all. But I don't know, if you're there for a longer amount of time, I think you do get some kind of like summer break. I don't know if it lines up exactly with our summer break in the US, but I did not. But every weekend you have the weekends free, Saturday and Sunday, and it's so easy to get around. There's buses, there's really, really cheap flights. So I was pretty much gone every single weekend, going and visiting different places. And I would highly recommend doing that because that's the way you're gonna get to see the country. Your teaching during the week is so intensive. You're there from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. at most schools, or something similar to that hours. And it doesn't leave a lot of time to go anywhere else. So yeah, use your weekends to travel, go see different places. Especially in Asia, there's so many countries that are so close together, and flights are so cheap that you can definitely travel on a small budget. Okay, this next person said, how do you think teaching abroad would work if you and your partner are both teachers? That would be honestly ideal, because both of you could teach probably at the same school, because there's so many openings and so many needed positions that you could probably get hired in the same place. It'd be easier, it'd be cheaper, because you'd only have to pay for one apartment, and then that extra money that you're getting for the travel allowance or for the housing allowance you could use to travel. So I think that would be honestly ideal. Like if Jake were a teacher, or even he has a bachelor's degree, so if he wanted to go teach, that's something for sure I would do together with him. Okay, someone else said where to start. So I would just Google how to teach abroad in whatever country you want to go to. You're going to find a lot of stuff on Pinterest. There's this really cool like side-by-side comparison of all the countries, the cost of living, how much you make there, what you need to teach there as far as education, experience, and so forth. That's a great place to start to just decide where you want to teach. Look on Craigslist too. I know that Craigslist kind of gets like this bad reputation, or that's like scammy or like scary, but I went through Craigslist and I didn't die, so I don't know, it's a good place to start. That's where I started, and it led me to the journey that I just shared with you. So I would start there. There's also a lot of good blog posts if you just search teaching abroad in Thailand or whatever country, or if you search that same thing on Pinterest, there's tons of information that will pop up that will help you how to get started. But basically just apply to a company. If you see an opening, just apply, and then the process is so fast and easy, and they help you with every step. My person from Media Kids, Andrew, probably hated me because I was emailing him like every single day. Like, I remember I even asked him in an email, like, do I need to bring a hairdryer? And he was so cool about it. He's like, yes, I would bring a hairdryer. They don't provide that. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask your person, whoever your mediator is between you and your school, and they should be willing to help you. Okay, the last question someone asked was, do you have to have a teaching degree? You absolutely do not. None of the other teachers that I met there had teaching degrees. I didn't have a teaching degree at the time. You will get paid more if you have one, and I definitely think that it would be helpful to have some kind of background knowledge in teaching. But if you're watching this and you are not a teacher and you have no experience, don't let that stop you from teaching abroad. You still can. You don't even have to do the TEFL certification if you don't have the money for it, or if you don't feel like you need it. That's something that is just an extra that will help you kind of have a little bit of leverage with what job you can get, but you don't need it. There's a huge need for English teachers in Thailand, and I think a lot of Southeast Asia. So if you are interested in it, I would definitely look into it and apply whatever your degree is in, because you're a native speaker. So regardless of what kind of degree you have, you know how to speak English, and you can help teach those kids how to speak English too. And you're going to learn a lot along the way. You can pick up strategies from other teachers, from online, you can watch videos. So there's a lot of different options. You don't have to have a degree, and don't let that stop you if you don't have one and you want to do this. You can definitely still do it. So I wanted to just kind of sum this up with my 3 biggest takeaways from this for someone that is looking to teach abroad, kind of what I would have done differently. The first thing I already kind of talked about, but get TEFL certified if you are not a teacher. Even now being a teacher, I think I still would do the TEFL certification because it gives you an orientation into that country. So you're going to get a language course, you're going to get like a Thai etiquette course as far as kind of what is culturally expected of you. It's going to help ease you into that culture shock. You're going to get to meet other people. You're going to get strategies and tools that you can take into the classroom that's going to help you in the country that you're teaching in. So I think that was a big mistake not doing that. Even though it costs a little bit more money and it takes a little bit more time, it's going to be so helpful, and it's going to enrich your experience a ton. And I regret not doing it because I needed it for sure. My students would have benefited off of it, and I think it would have made me feel a lot more comfortable being in that country. So I would definitely suggest doing that. My second thing is rent that motorbike, girl or boy, whoever's watching this, rent it, because you are going to have the whole country at your fingertips if you do. Okay, maybe not the whole country, because I think my motorbike maxed out at like 50 miles an hour, but you are going to be able to travel to a lot of different cool places that you might not have had access to otherwise, and it's going to be a lot cheaper. So I think it was only $30 a month for me to rent my motorbike, and then it was about $1 to $3 a week for gas. And I drove it every single day. I would drive it to my school, which was pretty close. I would drive it around town to get meals. Almost every day I would drive it out to the jungle to go do my workout, which sounds kind of weird now if you think about it. And I made this really stupid pun that I worked out at the jungle gym. It's pretty bad. But rent a motorbike, it's really inexpensive. It's really fun, and it makes you feel like you're having that authentic foreign experience. So I would for sure consider getting a motorbike. My third tip kind of probably seems pretty obvious, but do not be afraid to try new things. So definitely learn parts of the language, try new foods, meet new people. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, because that's kind of the point of this whole experience, is that you're experiencing another culture, another language, another world, another country, and not taking the time to do things that you don't have the opportunity to do at home, you're missing out. So definitely, even though it's scary, even though you might be homesick, even though something might sound kind of strange or you're not sure about it, just try it. Give it a try. What do you have to lose? Nothing. And when you get home, you might regret not doing some of those things, like I for sure do. I feel like I was kind of rambling through this video because there's so much to talk about. I was there for so much and I experienced so much. So I hope I did a good job of sharing with you guys what my experience was like, and hopefully this was helpful to give you guys an idea of what it would be like to be an English teacher in a foreign country. So if you guys still have any questions that I didn't answer, or you guys are still kind of curious about or I didn't answer fully, please feel free to leave them down below. I'd be very happy to help. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Bye!